I read a lot about schizophrenia, and I know that that is what the government is trying to make people seem like they have. So I encourage all TIs to take this test and to consider, how ridiculous it is. I feel that others can control what I think and feel. Well, if people are messing with you, then they probably can. But I'm going to take this to mean that others can control it by some kind of psychic connection or something. I don't feel that at all. In my videos, I've never claimed that. I see things that others do not hear or see. I think that is not true, and if you believe that the government is using technology on you, and so they can hear or see these things that they're putting in your head, which they haven't done in my case really, and I'll get into that later in this video, so I put not at all. I feel it is very difficult for me to express myself in words that others can understand. Not at all. If you can't understand my videos, I suggest you read more or something. I feel I share absolutely nothing in common with others, including my friends and family. That's ridiculous. We have a lot in common genetically. Our music tastes, we like hip-hop and so on and so forth. We like women, me and my brother, my brothers and I. I believe in more than one thing about reality and the world around me that no one else seems to believe in. Not at all. There are millions of people that believe in conspiracy theory, if not hundreds of millions, or at least tens of millions. Others don't believe me when I tell them the things I see or hear. Not at all. I've never come across people that don't believe me unless they're complete trolls, and plus I never really had any hallucinations, or I never hear voices or anything like that. I can't trust what I'm thinking because I don't know whether it's real or not. Not at all. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous for me. I have magical powers. That would be nice, but unfortunately I don't. Others are plotting to get me. Now here is where it gets complicated now, isn't it? Because there are people where others are plotting to get them, right? Do I believe others are plotting to get me? Yes, but here is the problem where we have to read into the question, Because I was a gang member, others are plotting to get me, it's irrational. So I'm going to take this question to mean, is there an irrational belief that others are plotting to get me? Do I think that for no reason others are plotting to get me? First of all, I don't know if there's gang members plotting to get me or not. First of all, I know that they don't like me for a very good reason because I used to hang out with gang members and I have gang tattoos, which is a rational belief. So I'm not gonna, put anything out of the, I'm not gonna put anything obviously for that part. I believe the cops have disproportionately come to get me for many times for many reasons, for stupid shit like arguing with my parents. So is it logical to assume that there's at least some sort of a plot to take me back to the psych ward? Yes. Do I have evidence that people said that they're being provoked? I mean, that they were told to provoke me to go back to the psych ward? Yes. So I'm going to take this to mean that there is an irrational belief, with an unsubstantiated belief, that others are plotting to get me. Not at all. And I assume that most of you are smart enough to see why I put that, as opposed to somebody who has an irrational belief. I find it difficult to get hold of my thoughts. Nope. I am treated unfairly because others are jealous of my special abilities. Now, I wouldn't call my abilities special. I'm going to take that to mean that you're referring to the magical powers earlier. Yes, people are jealous of people's talent. People on TV who can sing well. There's people who, I wish I could sing like her. Supermodels. There are people who are like, I wish I was beautiful like her, and so on. So I'm going to take this to mean special as in unbelievable, magical, out of the ordinary, or something you don't see all the time, like you see talents, artists and so on and so forth. So not at all. You see how I'm rationally and logically answering these questions without allowing them to trick me in the slightest? I talk to another person or other people inside my head that nobody can. No. All right, so let's see my score now. Results of your schizophrenia test. Please interpret results below cautiously. You scored a total of 0. You answered, reset to default. Remember, these questions are also asked by your psychiatrist. You have answered this schizophrenia screening in such a way as to suggest that you are not likely currently suffering from schizophrenia or a schizophrenia-related disorder. You should not take this as a diagnosis of any source or a recommendation for treatment. However, it would be advisable and likely beneficial for you to seek further clarification about this matter from a trained mental health professional as soon as possible in order to rule out possible schizophrenia or psychotic disorder. Okay? No, I don't want to register. Thank you for the test. I was not laughing because it's funny that some people actually do hear voices. Some people do have problems that might be described as schizophrenia, but it has not been adequately described by quote-unquote mental health professionals. Now I would like to, before I talk about the eye test and the eye movements of the brain, I'd like to first show you something real quick, a little clip from Martin Luther King's speech. It's called The Drum, I believe.
The church is the one place where the doctor ought to forget that he's a doctor. The church is the one place where the PhD ought to forget that he's a PhD. The church is the one place that the school teacher ought to forget the degree she has behind her name.
Now, so I'd like you to notice how he's speaking the drum major instinct sermon. So you see how it kind of goes up and down, right? This is common with speakers. And so when you see me, expressing myself, ironically, one of the questions was, do you have trouble expressing yourself? So when I was speaking in a very angry manner, that was me expressing myself. I'm the top martial artist in America. If I'm not a warrior, then who is? And this is not some kind of supernatural ability or some superpower. This is simply, someone's got to be the best. When we tell people in the Olympics, hey, you have some kind of supernatural power because you have won over 100 matches and haven't lost at all. The same reason I wouldn't consider myself as having superpowers. With that being said, I have checked some perps, and 2 of them have told me, and not including the one in the interview, and I wish I was recording when they told me that. One seemed like a gang member, but had the mustache and Hispanic gang member type. The other was some white military type, and so this will make it 3 perps altogether, because after I made that Draw Muhammad video, when I was uploading my videos on the road, this guy in the white pickup truck who seemed like he was in the military told me that, where do you live? And he started questioning me in a very strange manner, and he asked me, where I live, and he insisted. He's like, where? And so then he said, don't worry, they just want you to think that they're coming for you. And so the 2 perps that I checked, well, for those of you who don't understand what that means, I basically confronted. They both admit that they were put up to this and that they were basically told to do this to get a rise out of me. They didn't use the term provoke me to go to the psych ward, but I'm sure if you have been following my videos, you understand that that was the purpose. And then so I've been staring some down in a way that made them drive off. A couple days ago, I was at Burger King, and this perp, he had an American flag bumper sticker. He started laughing out of nowhere, and he started putting his fist up like this and staring at me, and I stared at him in a very serious way, and he drove off real fast, almost as if I was chasing him down with a weapon or something. He drove off real fast and through another parking lot across the street and turned, abruptly and just took off. And so, as a result, they stopped following me. It's like when people are trying to bully you and you're tougher than they are, you confront them, and that usually solves the problem. So it's been several days now, I believe. I put in the comments in the other video. It's been 1 or 2 days now. They stopped following me, and I go out every day. I never really experienced technology being used on me, but my mind does play insignificant tricks on me, just like everyone else's. I see the little lights. After I stare into light at night, I see the light for a while. I see the little bluish image that you see from the light messing with your eyes. Little insignificant tricks, and that inspired me to look this up. And it says illusions have a long history going as far back as the ancient Greeks. It's funny how they always started with the Greeks when really it goes back to the Egyptians, but I'm not going to talk about that in this video. In 350 BC, Aristotle noted that our senses can be trusted, but they can be easily fooled. He noticed that if you watch a waterfall and shift your gaze to static rocks, the rocks appear to move in the opposite direction of the flow of water, an effect we now call motion after effect, or the waterfall illusion. So there's a lot of illusions that the mind can play that have never, I don't believe that's ever happened to me, but there's a lot of illusions that the mind plays on everybody, is my point. I put a lot of stuff in my notes. Basically, they're talking about the track and the flow of water seems to wear out certain neurons in the brain as they adapt to the motion. When you then shift your gaze to the rocks, other competing neurons overcompensate, causing the illusion of movement in other directions. And so the MRI, I'm going to get into later, it can show some of these effects of these illusions on your brain, and that's interesting as well. The Ebbinghaus illusion, for example, revealed that our brain makes judgments about size using adjacent objects, and this can be manipulated. The orange circles here are, okay, so they show 2 orange circles, and some of them have big objects, some of them have small, and one of them has big objects around it, the other one has small objects around it, and they're actually the same size, but they don't appear to be. This is from the BBC.com. It goes on to talk about Hermann von Helmholtz first demonstrated that a simple square made up of vertical lines, vertical lines look shorter and wider than a square made up of horizontal lines. The way my notes are written, hard to read, or the way they're copied. The Hering illusion, says Changizi, features radial lines that give the illusion of movements, similar to the scene we see as we move forward in the real world. Our brain has therefore evolved to treat these radial lines. And it goes on to talk about the Martinez-Kond work is now building on the work of some of the 19th century's researchers. Now, it goes on to say, it was Helmholtz, for example, who first realized that our eyes make rapid movements called saccades. And so you hear about these rapid eye movement schizophrenia tests. Now, if you have substantiated or you have proven that you are being persecuted by the government in a very definitive way, as I have, any tests or brain scans, you can't trust, because obviously, it wouldn't be very hard for them to fabricate these things, and psychiatry and big pharma has a long history of fabrication for personal gain, and there's a thin line between personal gain and political benefit, as you can imagine. So as we go on, yes. Okay, that's all I wanted to say. I also like to say that I just recorded my mom coughing this morning. I don't know if I'm going to bother to put that in this clip because her best coughs, her most loudest coughs, I didn't get it. I recorded like one last cough. But yeah, they're gassing me, and she was coughing a lot because I closed the window. It's November 5th today, and so it's very cold, and I've been trying to keep the window open because they gas me at night. And so basically, I closed the window tonight for the first time in a while, and I have more of a sore throat than usual, and my mom was coughing, which you might describe as violent coughs or erratically or what have you. Okay, so yeah, so just that and the threats to set me up, and of course, I'm pretty sure that the cyber attacks will continue. All these things have happened to a lot of people. There's nothing out of the ordinary. So when I took the schizophrenia test, between the fact that I've substantiated with 4+ different people, that there are people actually persecuting me. So even, misinformation and misdirection also lead to mind tricks. So even if nobody was persecuting me, the fact that over 4 people in the last month or so, especially in the last week, the 3 of them in the last week or so, or no, 2 of them in the last week and 4 in the last month or 2, shows you that this would be a result of misinformation and misdirection, not of some underlying mental illness. So you see how I've logically ruled out any claims they might make in the future about me being mentally ill, and how there is nothing that's happening that is out of the ordinary or that you wouldn't expect to happen to a political dissident. And when you couple that with the confessions, one of which I have, in one of my videos, not to mention the other targeted individuals' testimonies, it's logical to know that there's nothing wrong with me. And also remember, the diagnosis of clinical professionals, if you want to call them that, of clinicians, of psychiatrists, is based upon the patient's answers to the questions. And my answers to the questions wouldn't differ from the test I've just showed you in the first part of this video. I've just shown you in the first part of this video. So, logically, if I went to a psychiatrist right now and they were basing it on my testimony, you know, on what I have to say about it, they'll say, hey, there's no symptoms. And even if I was to take a rapid eye movement test, if there's no symptoms, there's no need for treatment, you know? For example, if you have a little cut, do you go to the emergency room? Or if you have a big gaping wound, then you need stitches, you go to the emergency room. So depending on the symptoms is whether or not you seek the treatment. Thank you. Some important parts from the Communist Manifesto, Marx and Engels. Just so I'm not making this up. Page 10, the introduction of this book. Marx would call him a dirty Jew of Negro blood. See, Marx was of Jewish origin, right? But he wasn't a Jew, you know, as far as religion. Next. No, bourgeoisie marriage in reality is a system of wives in common, and thus, as the most what the communists might possibly be reproached with is that they desire to introduce in substitution for a hypocritically concealed and openly legalized system of free love. So, to substitute for their what they call marriage a system of free love, where people sleep around. And they say it's hypocritically concealed. Yes, a lot of people do cheat, but what they want is to make it so everybody cheats. And if you, I don't think I have to explain that. If you are really that slow, I'll explain it in the comments. All right, so then we go to this chapter on position of the communists in relation to the various existing opposition parties. Remember, these last two bookmarks are from the manifesto itself. The first is from the introduction, the background, what have you. In France, the communists ally themselves with the social democrats. So there you have it. Communists on record have allied themselves with Democrats. They're in the Democratic Party. The communist principles, as I've mentioned in other videos. There's aspects of communism, because the communists, Marxist feminists, gay Marxists, and so on and so forth. And they seek to, quote-unquote, empower women, which is really a communist destruction of the family. Oh, wow, I wanted to find that part where it says they need to destroy the family. Let me see if I can find that for you real fast. I believe it's toward the end. They say flat out that they need to destroy the family. Damn, I should have found that part for you. I apologize. Didn't find the last video to make it. Here, I found it. It's in the same chapter, social, toward the end of the manifesto. Look at the bottom part. I'm going to read from right here. The practical measures proposed in them, such as the abolition of the distinction between town and country, of the family, of the carrying on of industries for the account of private individuals, and of the wage system, blah, blah, blah. The proclamation of social army, blah, blah. So they say, we mean to destroy the family so that we can, quote unquote, liberate women. There you go. The major forms of feminism we have are gender feminism, Marxist feminism. And these people are often called radical feminists. But if that's the case, if the major forms of feminism are radical, then third wave feminism especially is radical feminism for the most part. We rarely hear, other movements are pretty much, irrelevant. So there you have it. They mean to destroy the family. They mean to make all females sluts. And Marxist was a racist, specifically racist against black Jews. He's saying the worst kind of Jews are black Jews. So he's racist against blacks. We shouldn't be surprised because he comes from Germany. Thank you. Around me that no one else seems to believe in. Not at all. There are millions of people that believe in conspiracy theory, if not hundreds of millions, or at least tens of millions. Others don't believe me when I tell them the things I see or hear. Not at all. I've never come across people that don't believe me unless they're complete trolls, and plus I never really had any hallucinations. I read a lot about schizophrenia, and I know that is what the government is trying to make people seem like they have. So I encourage all TIs to take this test and to consider, how ridiculous it is. I feel that others can control what I think and feel. Well, if people are messing with you, then they probably can. But I'm going to take this to mean that others can control it by some kind of psychic in words that others can understand. Not at all. If you can't understand my videos, I suggest you read more or something. I feel I share absolutely nothing in common with others, including my friends and family. That's ridiculous. We have a lot in common genetically. Our music tastes, we like hip-hop and so on and so forth. We like women, me and my brother. My brother's not. I believe in more than one thing about reality and the world connection or something. I don't feel that at all. In my videos, I've never claimed that. I see things that others do not hear or see. I think that is not true, and if you believe that the government is using technology on you, and so they can hear or see these things that they're putting in your head, which they haven't done in my case, really, and I'll get into that later in this video, so I put not at all. I feel it is very difficult for me to express myself, or I never hear voices or anything like that. I can't trust what I'm thinking because I don't know whether it's real or not. Not at all. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous for me. I have magical powers. That would be nice, but unfortunately I don't. Others are plotting to get me. Now here is where it gets complicated now, isn't it? Because there are people where others are plotting to